Good morning and welcome to Ask the Expert. I'm Joe Taylor. This morning, another in the ongoing series of programs presented by the Northwest Regional Key Program for Quality Early Learning. The program, through the Northwest Institute of Research, oversees a grant from the Office of Child Development and Early Learning at the Pennsylvania Department of Human Services and the Department of Education. The goal of the program is to improve the outcomes for young children as they prepare for school. John Poza is a community partner specialist for the program, and he'll be here with us throughout the series. Good morning, John, and who do we have on the line this morning?
Good morning, Joe. This morning we have Scott Poloff from the PreK Counts program in Pennsylvania. Scott is a PreK Counts program specialist for the Pennsylvania Key to Quality Early Learning, and he comes with a wealth of knowledge in the education field. 18 years to be exact. He's held a variety of positions from teacher to other administrative positions. Before coming to PreK Counts, he was actually the elementary school principal in the Indiana area school district. And Scott is going to talk to us about how PreK Counts evolved to become one of the state's higher quality preschool programs and how parents can enroll their children in a PreK Counts classroom. So welcome, Scott.
Good morning.
Well, the first thing I think most of us would like to know, and especially our viewers not familiar with the program, is if you would describe what the PreK Counts program is and how it got started.
John, PreK Counts it's a preschool program for children at the age of 3 until they enter kindergarten. Children are eligible for enrollment into PreK Counts. Again, if they're 3 or 4 years of age, and then their family also must be earning at or less than 300% of the federal poverty guidelines. Children who have economic, language, cultural, other sorts of disadvantages that would put them at higher risk of struggles or failures in the school setting are also prioritized. But before those priorities take effect, all kids must meet those first 2 requirements of age and income.
And approximately how many current PreK Counts sites are there in the state, and how many children are served?
Well, I can't tell you the exact number of sites, but what I do have for you is, as of right now, there are 13,742 children receiving services through PreK Counts, and we have classrooms in 64 out of the 67 counties within the Commonwealth.
Right, and I know for our viewers here in our immediate Du Bois area, we have PreK Counts classrooms, obviously in Jefferson, Clearfield, and Elk County. How is the program actually run? In other words, what does a PreK Counts classroom, whether it's a full day, half day, typically look like, and what type of curriculum is used?
Okay. What they're going to see in most PreK Counts classrooms is what you would expect to see in any early learning preschool classroom. It's led by an ECE certified teacher and a teaching assistant if there's more than 10 children in a classroom. One of the regulations of PreK Counts is that there is a student-to-staff ratio of 10 to 1. The regulations require that a full-day program operates at least 5 hours a day. Half-day programs must run at least 2.5 hours a day. So some programs would have a morning session and an afternoon session, depending on the needs of their community. All services, including meals and snacks, field trips, things of that nature, are provided at no charge to any of the families whose children participate in PreK Counts. The program must use a curriculum that is developmentally appropriate for early childhood. It's aligned to the early learning standards through the Department of Education in Oakdale. And also there are outcomes, in other words, screening and assessment tests that are done with the children. And then those outcomes are also reported to Oakdale twice a year, and how we track progress in PreK Counts. All of the federal regulations can be found on the PA Keys website if people really want to go and really dig into it in more in-depth.
I'd like to broaden it a little bit. Did your experience as an elementary school principal in the Indiana district influence you as to the need and the importance of quality pre-K programs for youngsters?
absolutely it did. We would see in Indiana, and school districts specifically, but even meeting with other principals in Indiana County school districts, we saw that the incoming kindergartners every year seem to need more assistance. In other words, they weren't educationally, whether it's socially, developmentally, where we saw incoming classes coming in prior years. So we started conversations with, well, how can we get those kids those skills? How can we get out to parents? How can we get out to in the community and help families to develop early learning skills with children, educate parents as becoming the first educator of their child. And the best way to do that was to really get into the pre-K system. So I know for Indiana County, when you look now at almost all the school districts as well as child care agencies do have the PreK Counts grant. So when you think about 7 years ago, there's no grant, and now we have the grant. So there's 13,000 children plus children that are getting services. So there's absolutely a need. So again, sitting in an elementary building, seeing the needs of the incoming kindergarten kiddos becoming more diverse every year, absolutely, you could see that there was that need for early childhood learning.
And if I might, a follow-up on that, could you see the difference in preparedness between those kids who had been exposed to a good pre-K programs and those that hadn't? And if so, how did these differences manifest themselves once they got into school?
So much of pre-K is children learning through play, and they learn through their experiences with other kids, and by the teachers extending questioning and really letting the children build on real-life experiences. So when you would see those kiddos come in the kindergarten and really, truly having already developed those social interaction skills, so they're able to sit and engage with classmates. They're able to sit and engage with teachers. They were much more ready to take on the new challenges of kindergarten because they were prepared. Whereas in years past, children not having those experiences, that initiation in kindergarten was a much more difficult transition. So the skills that were being taught in kindergarten, sometimes for some kids, it takes them longer to acquire those skills because they're still working on the social and the age-appropriateness behaviors that are needed to really start to acquire those kindergarten skills. By having PreK Counts and having all those learning experiences already in place for kids, they come in much more prepared.
Scott, can you discuss about the relationship in many school districts of how PreK Counts is administered? In other words, I know it varies. It can be contracted either through a private preschool or child care, or even through a Head Start organization. And in some cases, it's also can be operated by the school district themselves. So can you speak to that as far as who actually is the entity and how that relationship evolves?
John, you're exactly correct in what you had stated. There's two specific ways in which school districts serve PreK Counts. The first is that the school district is the grantee, meaning the school district has applied for the grant, that the grant goes directly to the school district, and then the school district hires the teachers and the staff. So those people are now school district personnel, and the students, all of their programming either comes from the grant or from the district. So again, when we talk about food and meals and all those things, the district provides those things to the kids. The other way that they can come in is that the child care agency, whether it's Head Start, it could be an IU, it could be a child care agency, they are the grantee. And then they use the district space. The district could donate it to them. It could be a rental agreement, whatever's in their memorandum of understanding. But the staff then are employees of the child care agency. or the Head Start agency, and then those services may be provided by the district, but there may be a cost to the child care agency to have those services. But regardless of whether it's a school district teacher or a child care agency teacher, the qualifications for the teaching staff must be the same. They must be an ECE certified teacher. The curriculum must be a state-approved curriculum. So there are some differences in who hires the teacher, who's paying for the space, who's paying for the lunch services. And again, it's covered through the grants, but the integral parts of it, the teachers, the curriculum, are the same regardless of whether it's a school district or a child care agency in the school district.
Okay, Scott, we have a couple of questions from listeners. So here's our first one, and this may have been addressed previously, but we'll take it just the same.
Okay.
Hi, Scott. This is Kara from Brookville. I have a son that's getting ready to go to preschool next year. Can you tell me one of the first signs of quality to look for in a PreK Counts classroom that will benefit my son that I may not find at a lot of other preschools?
That's a great question to ask. And one of the things that you're really going to look for, again, is you're going to look at the level of the teacher. Does that teacher have, because it's PreK Counts, they are a state-certified teacher, having gone through an accredited institution to receive a teaching degree in early childhood. The curriculum is standards-driven. It's approved by the state. So you know right there before you walk into the door that you're going to receive an excellent instruction because of the requirements of the teacher, and then also because of the curriculum that's going to be taught. And the other thing you're looking for is it warm and inviting? All PreK Counts classrooms go through an environmental rating observation, which the state comes in and they do observations of the classrooms. Are there materials? So pretty much everything that you would want to look for: great staff, warm, inviting, engaging, learning atmosphere, approved curriculum. All of those things are in place when you walk into a PreK Counts classroom.
Okay, here's another question, Scott.
This is Stacy Confer from Warren, Pennsylvania. I'm the director at the Jefferson DeFries Family Center, and I just wanted to know what the process is for deciding which counties or which agencies receive PreK Counts monies when there is additional funding. Thanks.
When there's additional funding made available, Ogdell sends out information to the state that says there's additional money or additional grants could become available, and then there's a grant application process. And what happens is that anybody who's interested in acquiring the grant then completes the grant. The grant is then submitted. The grant is scored by a committee, and then those agencies that have applied for the grant, met the qualifications of the grant, and received the highest score are then given the grant or awarded the grant.
Are there things that a parent can do to reinforce what their youngsters learn in pre-K programs? I know the kids are there during the day. They go home. It may be a different environment. What kind of support is given or help is given to the parent to continue with the learning and the improvement at home?
And that's great, because when you look at the two most important things that influence a child's educational growth, social or academic, it's the child's teacher and then the parents, the family. And so one of the great things about PreK Counts and the early childhood standards is there is a family component. So they are constantly talking about family. They're constantly reinforcing. That's why we talk about that extended questioning that goes on. Students eat a lot of times. We encourage them to eat family style, buffet style, where all the kids are at the table and they're eating and they're talking about their day and what they're doing. So there's tons of questioning going on. And then teachers and centers are communicating that to the parents. One of the great things about pre-K is the parents are always welcome to come in and visit and volunteer to see what is going on in their child's learning. When we do our end-of-the-year evaluations, they are scored on the parent involvement plan. All pre-K count agencies have a parent involvement plan that outlines how parents can be involved in their education. So there are a plethora of ways that parents can extend at home what is going on in the school, whether it's by going in and visiting the school, talking to the teachers, or just reviewing all the materials that child care, Head Start, pre-K count agencies are sending home for the parents to review and do things with their children.
Scott, can you describe how children that may not otherwise benefit from being in a pre-K counts classroom, primarily because of family being above the income guidelines, and how their children can still benefit by participating in a mixed classroom of child care preschool and pre-K counts?
John, the great thing about that question, and we do have a lot of those blended classrooms, is the fact that if pre-K counts is any part of that classroom, so the funding for that classroom goes through pre-K counts, all the requirements for pre-K counts then must be met in that classroom. So they receive the benefits of a certified teacher. All the other pre-K counts requirements are there. The only difference is that there's a cost for that parent versus pre-K counts parent where there's no cost. But all the regulations, all the teacher certifications, all the curriculums are all there. So they're still getting that wealth of knowledge and that enriched experience of pre-K counts. It's just because there's probably some sort of funding or cost to that parent.
I'd like to bring up another schooling situation that has become rather popular, especially in rural parts of the state, and that would be homeschooling. Are there any pre-K programs that are specifically available for children being schooled at home? How is this handled, or is it?
No, I honestly, I don't have an answer to that question, and I don't want to say something that's not true, but I can definitely look into that and get that information to you. I do know that there are some agencies that do home visitation visits with children, but as far as pre-K counts, specifically, pre-K counts are all in classroom buildings, classroom settings.
Yeah, Joe, I know that there's another quality program. It's called the Parents as Teachers program that somewhat gets to that. But that's another program, and certainly it's something we can
because
discuss.
that could be a segment that could be missed completely. And as you know, John, in our area, that's maybe more popular than it would be in the bigger cities.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Scott, if the data is available, can you cite any kindergarten assessments or possibly third grade PSSA scores that would show any direct correlation as to how pre-K counts children succeed in school compared to those that maybe did not attend the pre-K counts classroom setting or any other quality preschool? Do we have that kind of data yet?
We are. That data is slowly being put together, John. There's no standard state kindergarten assessment at this time, so there's no one standalone test that everybody in kindergarten gives to measure where kids are when they come into kindergarten. Octel has piloted the KEI, which is the kindergarten entry inventory, and some districts are using them, but that data is very, very early in its development. PSSAs don't, as you know, don't start for kids until third grade. One of the things that the state is working on right now is trying to connect the early learning outcomes that we do with our pre-K counts children to third grade PSSA scores. But again, this process is early in its development. Some school districts do evaluate their pre-K children over time, but that's to show the benefits. But those are strictly probably in school districts where the school district has pre-K counts and those kids have stayed with the school district from pre-K through grade 3. But again, that data is very early, so I do not personally have access to it, but that's kind of where the process is starting, I guess is the best thing to say.
Okay, Scott, can you talk a little bit about your job itself and your role in the PreK Counts program as a program specialist?
What we do as program specialists is that we really monitor PreK Count grantees. There are 14 of us across throughout the state. We have an area. For example, my area is Indiana, Westmoreland, Somerset, and Cambria counties. And within those counties, I have a set list of grantees who have the PreK Counts grantees. Some are Head Start agencies, some are Keystone Stars, some are child care, some are school districts. So there's a vast variety of people that we do work with. We really work with them on all aspects of the grant. We could provide technical assistance for their staff and do professional development for their staff. We can provide technical assistance for them on things pertaining to their budget if they're looking at, different ways to use the funds that they receive. We do visit the classrooms. We do not a formal observation like teachers would go through for Department of Ed, but we do go in and do an overview of the classroom and the teachers. We provide feedback to the directors based on our observations. There is a formal review that we do of every entity as well. And then that formal review is submitted annually to Octal as well. So really we are there to help them in any capacity that they need assistance for their program to ensure that they are not only keeping the grant, but meeting the requirements of the grant and really truly creating an effective PreK Counts classroom or center for the children that they serve.
Okay, Scott, I think we only have about 2 minutes left, and this may be our last question, but how does the future of PreK Counts look going forward, and where can parents go to get additional information on enrolling their child for next year?
Parents can find PreK Counts locations on Compass. Compass is a statewide search for child care providers, or they can visit the PA Keys website at www.pakeys.org, and there's a list of providers in there by county. As for the future of PreK Counts, we're hopeful that we're going to get continued support from the administration and that they're going to help us continue to reach more children in the state of Pennsylvania.
Well, thanks, Scott. This was a fantastic program. I'm a firm believer in the quality of PreK Counts myself. Worked very closely with those folks, and it's an excellent program, very viable program. And I thank you so much for being on the program today.
All right, thanks, guys. I appreciate your time. And again, if anybody wants more information, it can be found on the Keys website.
And that's our program for today. We'll be back in 2 weeks at the same time. In the meantime, you can go online to learn more at papromiseforchildren.com. If you have questions, please email them to questions@nwirkey.org. For John Posa and the Northwest Regional Key Program for Quality Early Learning, I'm Joe Taylor. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.